What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another FPL Inklink video. My name is Mo, and today we're going to go through my updated draft on FPL. So I gave you guys the first video of my first draft. I've had a look at the game as well, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go a bit different this time. So I've never actually had a draft, or I've never actually made a team where I've chosen the following. So there's three things in it. I've chosen three premiums, and they are all my midfielders. So when I go for premiums, I mean like the kind of like expensive players such as Fernandes, Bruyne, Salah, and you've got players such as like Harry Kane as well involved in that kind of bracket as well. So I'm going to go through that kind of thing, and I've chosen 5 defenders for the first time. But before we begin, if this is your first time to FPL Inklink, welcome. If this is your returning back, welcome back. If you've subscribed to my channel, thank you very much. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and be part of the FPL Inklink family. In addition, if you like this video, hit the like button, and if you want to get the latest notifications of the videos and content that I do release, please hit the notifications bell icon and you'll get the latest notifications of when I do release my content. So let's not waste any further time and get stuck in to this draft itself. So it's kind of like the bird, or the kind of like arrow formation as they call it. So we're playing the 5-3-2, and I'll go through the thought process behind it. So I've kind of like stacked up on my defence, primarily trying to choose defenders who I think will give me the most kind of return. And also I've got 3 premium midfielders who I think are probably going to be the highest scoring kind of players potentially in this game season. And then I've also got 2 strikers who I think are kind of like middle range, and they'll be playing week in, week out for their respective clubs. So let's start off with the back itself. So I've got Sanchez in goal. So Robert Sanchez, he got 100 points, 101 points last season, 4.5 mil in price. Is he going to be the Martinez of this season? We're going to wait and see. 29.4% of managers already own him. So he didn't play the full season last season, but when he did come in, he made a huge difference to Brighton and their kind of like survival in the Premier League. He got 10 clean sheets, which is quite outstanding by a goalkeeper for Brighton, because there are sometimes, goalkeepers like Spurs, for example, Lloris, De Gea, who probably go a whole season with maybe anywhere between 12 to 16 clean sheets. So that's a really impressive stat. However, even more impressive for me is the stat of he's only conceded 27, so he didn't go wild in terms of conceding. He's quite consistent, and he knows how to keep clean sheets. If not, he knows how to concede as minimal as possible. So that's why I kind of opted for him in this draft, Sanchez himself. And my backup goalkeeper that I do have is going to be Ben Foster. Now, he's already selected by around 25% of managers in the game so far. So there's about 635,000 managers already that have signed up within the first week, which is really, really good. So it shows that a high percentage of managers are having Ben Foster as kind of like the backup to their goalkeeping choice. So they kind of seem at the moment the 2 most popular choices for goalkeepers, and that's why I've kind of chosen them to in this draft itself. Now, moving on to defence, I'm going to start with John Stones. So he's owned by 10.1% of managers. Now, he kind of had one of his best seasons overall for Man City, but also if you look at it respectively, for FPL itself. So last season, he played 1,933 minutes. He got 4 goals and 14 clean sheets. He got an overall point score of 128 points. Now, he wasn't too far off players who played far more than him, and only got 20-30 points more. However, that's the risk that you get with John Stones. He's a risk of rotation last season. Will he play every single game this season? Again, I'm not entirely sure, but this is the best chance for him to get like a solid partnership with Diaz. I mean, it's quite a shame for Laporte, who was kind of like their stalwart a season ago, but John Stones seems in a good limelight, and I think he will go on and get the nod. But the only concern I have is, will he be week in, week out? And is he going to be part of Pep's roulette? But I'm still going to take a hit on this draft. So I've got him at one of my defenders this season. The next defender for me is one of my kind of like up-and-coming favourite players from last season. I really enjoyed watching him grow, and the way he's performed last season for me, I think he's going to have a great future ahead. So a big credit to Frank Lampard for giving him the chance. But ever since Thomas Tuchel came into Chelsea, he's the most used player by him in terms of appearances. So that's really good news for Rhys James and his fans who are going to be having him in the game. So he's almost owned by 12% of managers already, 5.5 mil in price. He got 112 points last season with 3 assists and 1 goal, and he is part of corners, maybe short free kicks, indirect free kicks, he is there or thereabouts. 9 clean sheets. So I thought, Rhys James is going to be potentially not starting every single game. Again, there's a risk of rotation when it gets to the end of the season, but I think start of the season he'll get kind of like the firm week in, week out games. So that's why I've given him a choice or a selection in this squad week. The next player is Lucas Digne. Now, there's a couple of things which is kind of like really drawing me towards Digne this season. So firstly is his price. He was priced at 6 mil last season, 6.5 a couple of seasons before as well. But I really do believe with Digne, there's a couple of things I think we should really appreciate about him. Yes, they didn't have a great season last year under Ancelotti in terms of defensively, but he brings a lot more to Everton and you as a fantasy Premier League manager. He only played around 2,681 minutes last season, got 120 points, but he got 9 assists. Whereas the season before, he played 400 minutes more and got 9 assists as well. 8 assists as well. So it shows that he does have a potential to get forward. He's on direct free kicks, indirect free kicks, and corners as well. And now with Rafa Benitez coming in as well, he is, for me, someone I would like to keep an eye on. And looking at their fixtures, basically, look at the first 6 game weeks. So they've got Southampton. There's no red or maroon or cherry red, however like people like to classify those colours. So they've got Southampton at home, Leeds away, Brighton away, Burnley home, Aston Villa away, and Norwich at home. So I think he's playing Norwich, Brighton, and there's a couple of clubs in there, Leeds, who've come up in the Premier League in the last 2 or 3 seasons. So I know they've been in there for a couple of years now, but I think that couldn't be a better start for a club like Everton with a new manager. So this is why I have chosen Digne to come into this draft to help solidify and kind of strengthen my squad. Luke Shaw, 33% owned, kind of like the highest owned percentage defender at the moment in terms of this price range of 5.5 mil. He got 124 points last season, so he's pretty much playing every single minute that he could if he wasn't injured. I don't think he was really much choice of rotation, barring near the end of the season when they had like 3 or 4 games within an 8-day period where he did get rotated. But he's got 1 goal and 5 assists. I think they've been quite generous in terms of not pricing him at 6, because I generally was thinking he'd be a lot expensive than 5.5. But Luke Shaw, if you're making a draft and you want to put him in your squad, I think he needs to be someone you consider very seriously, because just to have a look at the fixtures in the first 6 games, he's got 1 cherry red, and even that one's considered as a West Ham away game. That is a bogey team for United, but you can never call it. I still think, even inclusive of that game, they're very good fixtures. Leeds at home, Southampton away, Wolves away, Newcastle at home, West Ham away, and Aston Villa at home. And then obviously the kind of difficult games come along with Everton, Leicester, Liverpool, Tottenham, Man City, which we can focus on later. But I do believe at the start of the season he is someone worth considering. And then we have Aaron Cresswell as my 5th defender, 5.5 mil, a very good season last year, the most fruitful season for him on the FPL game since he started around 2014, 2015. He got 11 assists, 153 points, and he played pretty much every minute for West Ham. The best thing about him was 11 clean sheets, which stood out as well. But I think generally he brings a lot to the game for West Ham. Again, direct free kicks. He's on corners as well, so he's a kind of a threat that way. The only thing I wish he could have added last season was goals, but that's something that we could potentially add on this season. And if you look at the fixtures for them, I would say all the way up to the first 10 game week fixtures, barring the games against Leicester and Manchester United. I'm not too sure about Tottenham at the moment, whether they will have game, but those 2 games, barring them 2, I generally believe they've got a real smooth run. So that's why I think Cresswell in there will not be a bad shout whatsoever. And obviously he always carries the joy of having a threat to the squad in terms of an attacking point of view. So that's why that's someone I've considered. And that's why he's got such a high ownership already. Almost 21% of managers are focused on him. He's probably the defender of the season last year in terms of the price he's being priced on the game and the team he plays for, if you subtract him from someone like Liverpool, Man City, or a Manchester United or a Chelsea team. And the reason why I just said those 4 teams, guys, because they were the top 4 teams in the league last year. Moving on to the premium midfield. So first of all, I've got Bruno Fernandes, ownership 42.1 mil, 12 mil in price. He got the highest points in terms of the game last season, 244 points. Last season, he was instrumental in Manchester United. He was their main talisman, so 18 goals and 14 assists, pretty much guaranteed to play every single week in, week out. Yes, he missed a few games, but that was probably due to rotation. He was never really dropped. And he probably got subbed around 75, 80 minutes. And by that time, he potentially had received his points for that game week itself. So, Fernandes, there's nothing really much to say to him. Yes, he had a bit of a, I would say, a quiet patch at the end of the season last season, but it could be due to fatigue. They were playing relentlessly and they had like 4 games within 8 days at the end of the season. So I'm not going to look too much into that. It's a new season. The Euros are just going to be finishing. He's going to be back with a vengeance and a point to prove. And he wants to obviously build on last season. And if we do get players at Manchester United like Sancho and we can strengthen in other places, then Bruno will be an absolute given to have in your squad. The next player I've got is Kevin De Bruyne. Now, Kevin De Bruyne, for me, I think he's been overpriced this season. The thing with fantasy football is, you get some players who, personally, for me, are either overpriced or underpriced. So based on Kevin De Bruyne, there's no one doubting his ability. He was 10.5 10 million last season. 9 mil the season before. He got 251 points last season, the season before, in 2019-20 season. He only got 141 points last season, so he only got 18 game week returns compared to the 34 of Bruno Fernandes. But yet, the price is exactly the same. And for me, I think he won't play as many minutes as Bruno. Bruno will probably play more minutes, but they're the same price. I really thought he would have probably been around 11 mil. 11.5 I would have understood, but 12 mil for me for De Bruyne this season based on last season's performance, it's a bit too steep for me. But again, you can't ignore him. He's a genius at the game. He plays for Man City. But the only thing that's kind of concerning me this season is last season for the first time I saw Pep kind of looking to rotate him because he was one of the, I used to say 2 or 3 players that was kind of nailed on to play. Edison and De Bruyne would generally play. But I think the only player that I'm at the moment solidifiedly confirmed is probably Edison, who will play every game itself. So for me, putting him in, that's the only concern I have. But generally, he's an absolute genius at the game itself. They got Tottenham first game. If he's got Harry Kane with him, absolute dynamite. If he gets Grealish as well, then only we all know how much they win. They'll probably win the league by because they're only going to strengthen more and more. And they got Norwich, Arsenal, Leicester, Southampton. So they've got some decent fixtures. Playing Tottenham, Leicester, and Chelsea within the first 6 game weeks is going to be tough. But again, you can never write off De Bruyne, so that's why I've included him in this draft itself. And last but not least, in the midfield of premiums, I've got Mo Salah, owned by 52% of managers already for the game who have started already. 231 points. Last season, 22 goals and 6 assists, pretty much guaranteed to play every single minute, and he's devastating in one of the Crystal Palace games last year. Came on after 60 minutes and he got 3 assists and a goal. It was absolutely ridiculous because I had him as a captain that week as well. So again, you can't really go wrong with him, and in terms of their fixtures, they are very, very generous. Barring a Chelsea game in the first 6 games, they're playing 2 of the 3 promoted clubs: Norwich, Burnley, Leeds, Crystal Palace, Brentford, and Chelsea in the first 6 game weeks. That's why he is so popularly chosen. Now, you've also got Ollie Watkins up front I've chosen, so he's selected by 34.8% of managers. 7.5 million price, I think that's quite generous this season, 168 points, and he scored 14 goals with 9 assists. A lot of that was due to the way Aston Villa played. Jack Grealish, at points Ross Barkley, John McGinn, you've got El Ghazi, Traore. It was a really good performance last season by Aston Villa themselves. So that's why I've chosen Ollie Watkins in this draft. He brings a lot to the team, and he pretty much is guaranteed to play week in, week out. They'll play domestic competitions. They're not in part of any kind of Europe competition, so that will be something which is worth considering. Basuma, not much we can say about him. 4.5 mil, he'll play. And he's kind of really like a good player in terms of a footballer, but in terms of fantasy, he's a really good player to have on the bench that if you need to bring him on or he comes on, you're guaranteed 2 points by him for the game week. And Davis, again, he's a 4.5 mil forward. Pretty much isn't going to play much at all, but it's something that I just thought I'd have on the bench. He did get the odd minute last season, so he might get a build up more. but we'll be able to see. But I'm really not looking to use him this season itself. But I've got 2 other players to cover if 2 players of my squad are rotated or not playing. So this is the draft of the premium midfielders. So let me know what you think. Got a bit different. 5 defenders, 3 premium midfielders, and 2 strikers who will play week in, week out. In terms of set piece takers, you got Tony on penalty, Salah on penalty, Fernandes on penalties, and De Bruyne, dependent on whether Kane comes or not. In terms of set pieces, you got James, Digne, Shaw, Cresswell, Fernandes, De Bruyne, Salah, and Tony. So that shows you how many players that are involved in direct or indirect goal involvement. So that's my draft for the premium midfielders. Let me know what you think, and I'll be making more draft videos as well. If you've got any drafts you want to send in to me directly, you can send that to me on Twitter or my Instagram page. Message me, let me know what you'd like to know. Let me know if you want me to tell you where I think you guys can potentially make your draft better of your squad. Let me know where I can help. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you want to be part of the FPL Inkling community, and in addition, join the league. The code's on the bottom left. Be part of the league itself, and hit the notifications bell icon if you want the latest notifications of when I will release my content. Have a lovely day. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you guys soon.